The afternoon sun climbed higher, warming the air around them as they stayed by the water a little longer than either of them had planned. What started as a simple escape was slowly turning into something harder to define. Eventually, they stepped out of the river, the breeze brushing against their damp skin. Noah ran a hand through his wet hair, laughing quietly. "That was actually really nice," he said. Ethan nodded, watching him for a second longer than usual. "Yeah, it was." There was a shift now, subtle but real. The playful energy from before had softened into something quieter, more aware. Ethan noticed in the way their conversations slowed down, in the way their eyes met and didn't immediately look away. Neither of them said anything about it, but both of them felt it. A little further up from the riverbank stood a small wooden cabin, weathered, simple, probably used by visitors now and then. Ethan had seen it before, but never really paid attention to it. Today it felt different. "Hey!" Ethan said, breaking the silence. "There's a small place up there. Might be some snacks, or at least somewhere to sit." Noah glanced in that direction, then back at Ethan. "Yeah, okay." They walked up together, their steps slower now, more aware of each other's presence. The door to the cabin wasn't locked. Inside it was quiet and shaded, offering a break from the heat. The outside world felt far away. They sat down, not too close, but not far either. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan leaned forward slightly, resting his arms on his knees, trying to act normal, but his thoughts were louder now, focused on Noah, on the way he looked at him, on the way everything felt different when he was near. Noah seemed just as aware, his fingers lightly tracing the edge of the wooden bench, as if he needed something to focus on. "You come here a lot?" Noah asked softly. "Sometimes," Ethan replied. "Mostly when I don't feel like being around people." Noah nodded, understanding more than he said out loud. Another quiet moment passed. Then, almost without thinking, Ethan reached out. His hand rested gently against Noah's back. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't forceful. Just there. Noah went still, not pulling away, but not leaning in either. Ethan immediately felt the tension in that small reaction. He started to pull his hand back, unsure if he had crossed a line, but Noah didn't move away. Instead, he turned slightly toward him. Their eyes met again, this time closer, more intense. Ethan hesitated, then spoke quietly, his voice lower than before. "Is this okay?" Noah looked at him, clearly unsure. There was hesitation in his expression, questions he hadn't answered yet, feelings he hadn't fully understood. At first, he shook his head just a little, not out of rejection, but confusion. Ethan nodded, respecting it, starting to pull back. But something held the moment together. It didn't break. It stretched. Noah exhaled slowly, his gaze dropping for a second before returning to Ethan. "I just don't know," he admitted. Ethan didn't rush him, didn't push. He just stayed there, present, and that made the difference. After a few quiet seconds, Noah shifted slightly closer. Not much, but enough to say something had changed. "Okay," he said softly. It wasn't loud. It wasn't certain. But it was real. Ethan leaned in slowly, giving Noah time to stop him if he wanted to. He didn't. Their first kiss was gentle, uncertain, more about feeling than anything else. It wasn't rushed or intense. It was careful, like both of them were stepping into something new, without knowing exactly where it would lead. When they pulled back, neither of them spoke right away. They just looked at each other. And in that silence, something had shifted, something neither of them could undo now. Ethan leaned back slightly, running a hand through his hair, letting out a quiet breath. Noah looked down at his hands, a faint smile forming, but mixed with something else. Nervousness. Reality. That was... Noah started, but didn't finish. "Yeah," Ethan said softly. "I know." They both did. This wasn't just a random moment anymore. It meant something. And even though neither of them fully understood what that something was yet, they knew one thing for sure. Nothing between them was the same as before. After that day, things didn't just go back to normal. They couldn't. What happened by the river stayed with both of them. Quietly at first, like a thought you try to ignore, but keeps coming back stronger. Ethan found himself checking his phone more often than usual. even though he was expecting a message. It didn't make sense. He barely knew Noah. They hadn't exchanged much information beyond names and a few details. And yet, it felt like something unfinished. 3 days passed. Then, on the 4th, Ethan was sitting outside his place, leaning against his bike, lost in his own thoughts, when he saw him again. Noah, standing across the street this time, a little more certain, but still carrying that same quiet hesitation. Ethan stood up almost immediately, surprised but unable to hide the small smile forming on his face. "You just show up like that," he called out. Noah shrugged lightly as he walked closer. "I didn't know if you'd mind." Ethan let out a soft laugh. "If I minded, I wouldn't be smiling right now." That broke the tension. And just like that, they fell back into something familiar, but not the same. This time, there was awareness between them. Unspoken, but understood. "Ride?" Ethan asked, nodding toward the bike. Noah didn't hesitate this time. "Yeah." The second he sat behind Ethan again, his hands didn't hover uncertainly like before. They rested naturally, more confident, more comfortable. They went back to the river, not because they planned it, but because it had already become theirs. Days turned into a pattern. Noah would come by. Ethan would take him out. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they didn't need to talk at all. The connection between them deepened in quiet ways. Shared looks, small touches, moments that stretched longer than they should. It wasn't just physical. It was something heavier, something real. One evening, as the sky turned shades of orange and purple, they sat side by side near the water, their shoulders almost touching. Noah broke the silence. "I've never done this before," he said. Ethan glanced at him. "Done what?" "This," Noah replied quietly. "Any of this." Ethan didn't joke this time, didn't deflect. "Yeah," he said after a moment. "Me neither." That honesty changed something. Noah exhaled slowly, staring out at the water. "It's confusing." Ethan nodded. "I know. I don't even know what this means," Noah continued, "or what I'm supposed to feel." "You don't have to figure out all at once," Ethan said. "We're just here." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't that simple anymore. Because for him, it wasn't just being here. It was becoming something he didn't want to lose. And that scared him too. Over the next few days, that confusion started to grow. Noah became quieter sometimes, more distant in small ways. He still came, but something in him held back. One night, Ethan noticed it clearly. They were sitting inside the same small cabin near the river. The place that once felt calm now felt heavy. "You've been off," Ethan said, finally breaking the silence. Noah didn't respond right away. "I'm just thinking," he said eventually. "About what?" Noah looked at him then, his expression serious. "About everything," he admitted. "About us." That word, us, hit differently. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Okay, and—" Noah shook his head, frustrated. "I don't know, man. This isn't simple. I didn't say it was." "No, but you act like it can be," Noah replied. "Like we can just keep doing this without it meaning anything." Ethan frowned. "It does mean something." "Then what is it?" Noah asked, his voice rising slightly. "What are we doing?" That question hung in the air. Ethan didn't have a perfect answer, and that silence said enough. Noah stood up, running a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "I've been trying to understand this," he continued. "Try to understand myself. And I can't just ignore it like it's nothing." "I'm not ignoring it," Ethan said firmly. "Then what are you doing?" Noah shot back. Ethan stood up too now, the tension finally surfacing. "I'm trying not to mess this up," he said. "I'm trying not to push you into something you're not ready for." Noah stopped pacing. "And what if I'm not ready?" he asked quietly. That hit harder than anything else. Ethan didn't respond immediately, because for the first time, he realized that this might not end the way he wanted. Noah looked away, his voice softer now. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. The words landed heavy. Ethan felt his chest tighten, but he didn't try to stop him, didn't argue, because forcing it would only make it worse. "Okay," Ethan said quietly. That response surprised Noah. "You're not going to say anything?" he asked. "What do you want me to say?" Ethan replied, "If you're not sure, then you're not sure." Noah looked at him for a long second, then nodded slowly. "I think I need space." Ethan swallowed, then nodded back. "Yeah, okay." And just like that, the thing that had been growing between them paused. Noah left that night without looking back. And this time, Ethan didn't follow. The days after felt heavier than before. Everything went back to how it used to be: work, silence, empty rides. But now it felt different, because now he knew what was missing. Every street reminded him of Noah. Every ride felt incomplete. Even the river didn't feel the same. Ethan went back there once, standing in the same spot where everything had started. But it felt quieter now, colder, because the connection that once filled that space was gone, or at least that's what it felt like. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan stopped expecting to see Noah again. At first, he told himself it was for the best, that whatever had happened between them had been temporary. Something intense, confusing, but never meant to last. But that thought didn't sit right, because nothing about it had felt temporary. Not the way Noah looked at him, not the way silence between them had felt full instead of empty, and definitely not the way everything now felt incomplete. Ethan tried to go back to his old routine: work at the shop, late night rides, keeping to himself. But something had changed in him. Before Noah, being alone had felt normal. Now, it felt like something was missing. One evening, just as the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and fading gold, Ethan found himself riding without thinking, until he realized where he was going: the river, the same place where everything had started. He parked his bike near the edge and walked down slowly, hands in his pockets, his mind quieter than it had been in days. The water moved the same way it always had, steady, calm, untouched by everything that had changed for him. Ethan stood there for a while, just looking out, trying not to think, trying not to remember. But that was impossible. Every part of that place carried something. The first conversation, the laughter, the moment everything shifted. He let out a slow breath, shaking his head slightly as if that would clear it all. "You really like this place, huh?" The voice came from behind him, familiar. Ethan froze for half a second before turning around. Noah, standing there again, just a few steps away. For a moment, neither of them moved. It felt unreal, like something Ethan had imagined too many times. But Noah was there, same quiet presence, same eyes. Only this time, there was something different, less uncertainty, more clarity. "You came back," Ethan said, his voice calm but carrying more weight than he intended. Noah nodded slowly. "Yeah." A brief silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable, just careful. "I wasn't sure if you want to see me," Noah admitted. Ethan gave a small, honest shrug. "I wasn't sure either." That made Noah smile faintly. He stepped a little closer, closing the distance, but not all of it. "I've been thinking a lot," Noah said, "about everything." Ethan didn't interrupt, didn't rush him. "I try to walk away from this," Noah continued. "Try to tell myself it didn't make sense, that it was too complicated." He paused, looking down for a second before meeting Ethan's eyes again. "But no matter what I told myself, I couldn't ignore how real it felt." Ethan's expression softened slightly, but he stayed quiet. "I was scared," Noah admitted. "Not just of what this is, but of what it means about me." There was honesty in his voice now. No hesitation. No hiding. "And I think I needed that time to figure out." Ethan nodded slowly. "And did you?" Noah took a breath. "I don't have everything figured out," he said. "But I do know one thing." He stepped closer now, enough that there was no distance left to question. "I don't want to run from this anymore." The words landed gently, but firmly. Ethan looked at him for a long second, searching his face, making sure this wasn't uncertainty speaking again. It wasn't. This time, Noah wasn't unsure. He was choosing. "You're sure?" Ethan asked quietly. Noah nodded. "Yeah." That was enough. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, a small smile forming despite himself. "Good," he said. They didn't rush anything after that. No sudden movements. No overwhelming moments. just a quiet understanding settling between them. They walked over to the edge of the water again, standing side by side like they had the first day. But everything felt different now. Stronger, more certain. "I kept coming back here," Ethan admitted after a while, "even when you weren't around." Noah glanced at him. "Why?" Ethan looked out at the river. "Because this is where everything started." Noah smiled slightly. "Yeah, it is." Another quiet moment passed, but this time it felt full again, complete. Noah sat down near the edge, and Ethan followed, the space between them naturally closing. There was no tension now, no confusion, just something steady. "Real. I don't know what this turns into," Noah said softly, "but I want to find out." Ethan nodded. "Me too." And for the first time, those words didn't feel uncertain. They felt like a beginning. As the sun dipped lower, the light reflecting off the river in soft, fading waves, Noah leaned slightly closer, his shoulder brushing against Ethan's. This time, neither of them pulled away. They stayed there, watching the water, letting the moment settle around them, not as strangers, not as something temporary, but as two people who had found something unexpected and chose not to let it go. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somehow, that was enough.